Thomas, wollen wir anfangen?
Ja, das können wir machen. Okay, good afternoon to all of you. I'm very excited to see all of you. My name is Thomas Daum. I'm an agricultural economist working at University of Hohenheim, and I welcome you on behalf of the AKTC and Bayer and some of the other partners today. So today we're going to discuss about climate-adapted farming methods, in particular the use of mechanized conservation agriculture. So this is super exciting research that Godfrey Omulo has been leading in Zambia together with the AKTC for the last couple of years. And I'm very much looking forward to his presentation. Maybe some words about the University of Hohenheim first. We were founded 200 years ago, also because of events related to climate. At that time, there was a huge volcano outbreak in Indonesia that changed the climate really across the world. That was one of the biggest eruptions of a volcano ever in the world history, sending huge ash clouds and fine particles, causing a huge hunger crisis in Europe at that time, which led to the foundation of the University of Hohenheim. So climate is something that really lies close to our hearts. Now, 200 years later, University of Hohenheim is the biggest agricultural university in Germany, also rated as the best university on agriculture in Germany. And we have a specific focus on tropical agriculture. We have an institute, Hans Ruttenberg Institute for Tropical Agricultural Sciences, that is committed only to agricultural development in the tropics, where we have 10 chairs looking into topics related to agricultural development there. As part of that work, we are very committed to smallholder development, smallholder agriculture, and focus on topics related, again, to climate change, climate resilience, but also some of the topics that are really the focus of today's presentation, which is mechanization and conservation agriculture, are very much the focus on what we do. We believe that mechanization is key to increase labor productivity, for smallholder farmers in particular, and we know that this is key to improve their livelihoods, to improve the incomes. Labor productivity is just essential for that. But we also believe that there should be a focus on conservation agriculture. Conservation agriculture is important in terms of climate resilience, but obviously also to preserve the soils that we as humankind depend on. So thinking of these three topics, climate, mechanization, conservation of soils, bringing them together as part of this project has really excited us a lot. And we are very grateful for the opportunity to have been working on this project together with AKTC. And with that, I don't want to continue talking much longer and hand over to Stefan and then Helmut before we will hear about the presentation of Godfrey, who will present some very exciting findings from his work. Okay, thanks a lot. And please, Stefan.
Thank you, Thomas. My name is Stefan Heinker. I'm working for Bayer and taking care of Bayer Crop Sciences partnerships with think tanks and development organizations. We had some time ago had the opportunity to fund AKTC a little bit so that they were able to continue this research that Godfrey will present. And we were happy to do that because, as Thomas already said, I think conservation agriculture is, especially no-till approaches, are very important to help farmers adapt to the ever getting worse climate change, and at the same time to hopefully build some organic matter in the soil and also do something to sequester carbon by this way. And I especially like about University Stuttgart's AKTC and Godfrey's research, that it is very practical, that it looks at the economics of mechanized farming for smallholders. And I think this is very, very important knowledge because we have to get from theory to practice and make conservation agriculture really happen in Africa and for smallholders. And so I think this is great, and I'm looking forward to the presentation. And with that, Helmut, I hand it over to you.
Yeah, Thomas and Stefan, thank you very much for the welcome remarks from the University of Hohenheim in Germany and Bayer. My name is Helmut Unchartz. I'm the AKTC team leader. Before Godfrey Omulo will present his research results in a few minutes, just let me introduce AKTC to the audience, to the ones who don't know us. For your information, all research which will be presented in due course has been carried out on the AKTC fields at the Golden Valley Agricultural Research Trust, in short GARD. We are 60 kilometers north of the Zambian capital, Lusaka. Who or what is AKTC? The Zambian German Agricultural Knowledge and Training Center, in short AKTC, is a project within the bilateral cooperation program of the Federal Ministry of Food and Agriculture, BMEL. We started our work here at GARD in 2014. And as the name says, we offer a variety of training courses related to the use of agricultural machinery and crop production to mechanized farmers and farmers who produce for the market. Since 2018, we do field trials and research on mechanized conservation agriculture, referred to as MCA, also known as climate-adapted farming methods. The research is done in cooperation with the University of Zambia and the University of Hohenheim in Germany. Conservation agriculture is based on 3 pillars: crop rotation, minimum tillage, and a permanent organic soil cover. In the tropics, we experience heavy rains and strong winds. The organic soil cover prevents water and wind erosion. And on our research fields, the cover crop consists of the plant residues of the previous crop. That means either residues of soya or maize. The cover crop also increases the water infiltration rate of the soil, and it protects the soil life from the sun. This soil life needs nutrients, and organic soil cover is providing this food to the microorganisms. A healthy crop, which needs less crop protection, can only be grown on a healthy soil. Many conservation farmers grow maize and soya as their crop rotation. As mentioned before, the 3rd pillar of conservation agriculture is the minimum soil disturbance. At AKTC, we practice mechanized conservation agriculture by using a tractor. By using a tractor, the farmer basically has 2 options under conservation agriculture to get the seeds into the soil. One option is ripping before planting, and the other one is direct seeding. Before planting, a ripper penetrates the soil and creates a seed furrow. Ripping keeps the soil cover with the before-mentioned benefits. It breaks up compacted soil layers, and by planting into the rip line, it minimizes the soil disturbance. An even more economical way compared to ripping is direct seeding. A direct seeding planter opens the soil, plants the seed direct into the untilled land. By practicing direct planting, the farmer spares one pass on the fields. Because direct planting saves time and diesel, it is probably the most economical and climate-friendly tillage method. AKTC, in cooperation with the University of Hohenheim, conducts field research. We compare the conventional tillage method, which in Zambia is burning and disking, with ripping and direct seeding. Godfrey compared 3 different tillage methods: conventional, ripping, and direct seeding, now for 3 consecutive years. The aim of this research was not only to find out more about the ecological advantages of mechanized conservation farming or conservation agriculture, but to prove that it is even more economically viable. At AKTC, we believe that farmers can more easily be convinced to practice conservation agriculture if more money remains in their pockets. Now let us hear from Godfrey if conservation farming leaves more money in the farmers' pockets. Godfrey, we are looking forward to hear your presentation. Godfrey, you're still muted.
Yes, Helmut, I can hear you. let me just set my presentation. I hope I'm now loud and clear.
Yes, please.
All right. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Unchartz, and also Dr. Daum and Dr. Heinker for those kind words, introductory words. The pleasure is really mine to share with you a bit of what you've been doing at AKTC for the last 3 seasons, literally 4 years, if I will mention that. And just to give a brief introduction of myself just before I get into our discussion today.
Godfrey, just a second. We see this in the presenter mode.
Okay,
so
sorry.
like the next slide and the...
Yes.
Okay, now it's good.
Now it's okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, thank you so much, Thomas, for that. Yeah, so I wanted to say that just to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Godfrey Omulo, originally from Kenya, specifically Migori County, that is southern, western part of Kenya. I'm an agricultural engineer by profession. And in the last 4 years, or for the last 4 years, I've been doing my PhD studies under the chair of social and institutional change in agricultural development. That is Professor Regina Bina, and the mentorship of Professor Kola and Dr. Thomas Daum. Yes, so my research basically has been trying to get the answer to the question whether sustainable mechanization can really unlock the potential of conservation agriculture in sub-Saharan Africa, but specifically in Zambia, which was our case study. And yeah, my research took a bit of interdisciplinary approach. And what we're going to discuss today is just an aspect of my studies. And then this work actually has not been done by myself alone. So as you can see, the team is great. So I really acknowledge all the team members who are also in attendance. So our topic for discussion today is mechanized conservation agriculture profitable for small and medium scale farmers? A case of Zambia. As we may all be aware, climate change impacts and other challenges of crop production has pushed the small-scale farmers and farmers generally worldwide to start thinking of looking at some sustainable practices that could help them, beat the challenges or improve their productivity. And among the many termed climate-smart ways of farming or agroecologically suitable practices, conservation agriculture actually has been mentioned as one of them. And it has also been shown by research that it has the potential to improve agricultural productivity, increase resilience to climate change, improve overall food security, and also increase or reduce environmental degradation. This not only in sub-Saharan Africa, but across many countries worldwide. Now, specifically talking about Africa or sub-Saharan Africa, CA's adoption is termed as low and compared to other parts of the world. And many other reasons, or among the many reasons why this is so, is because of the high labor requirements in the absence of mechanization. Yeah, so manual CA is termed as time-consuming and also is characterized by low yields and somehow also unappealing to young farmers. And for farmers who are using animal draft power, they also face the challenge of animal diseases that is in the rise in many countries. Now, why the case of Zambia is of interest to us is that research shows, or the recent research has shown that there is a paradigm shift or the rise of medium-scale farmers. And this is not only in Zambia, but in other countries as well across SSA. And these medium-scale farmers, or the emergent farmers as they are called in Zambia, are somehow keen to employing some level of mechanization. So using of tractors and associated implements, and also offering tractor hire services, and also using or hiring services for their production. So research shows that this offers some new perspective to CA that is not yet explored or researched. Now, based on this, we ask ourselves, could the emergent farmers be the missing link for CA adoption, or could the rising medium-scale farmers be the missing link to increase mechanized CA adoption? And if this is the case, we also want to get to the bottom line, whether this can still be affordable and profitable for the majority medium and small-scale farmers in the case of Zambia. Now, just to give us a picture of current production trends, or in terms of land cultivation, research by Shea and Barrett, and also Thomas and Bina, shows that currently up to 80% of land is still done by hand or by hand tools, while 15% is done by animal draft power, and only 5% is currently under mechanized production. Now, this just shows that, yes, mechanization is still low, but on the positive side, we can also say that, yes, there is a great potential to improve, or to improve production of the majority medium and small scale farmers who still rely on hand tools and animal draft power. And as I said, research also shows that the medium scale farmers don't just farm on small scale farms, but they farm on between 5 to 20 hectares of land, and even to 200 hectares of land. And recent research also shows that in the year 2015 alone, all the cultivated land, actually 42% was done by these medium scale farmers, and these numbers will have increased in the recent years. Nevertheless, the status of mechanization or tractor ownership is still very low. Currently, less than 1% of farmers nationally or nationwide own less than 1% own tractors, and compared to 46% who use and somehow own also animal draft power. But current research also shows that private sector driven mechanization is on the rise in Zambia. So new studies by Yen and also Adu Bafua 2019 has shown that, yes, private sector driven mechanization is on the rise, and this has come with the good benefits. So the tractor service provision is on the rise, which also has spillover effects to small scale farmers who perhaps might not afford to buy their own tractors, but can afford to hire the services in their locality. So with this background, we decided to first and foremost interact with some of the emergent farmers that AKTC trains. So basically from Lusaka province and Central province. And for this aspect of our study, we were trying to look at what could be the perception or the attitudes of these so-called medium-scale farmers towards mechanized conservation agriculture. Of course, we had other aspects of what we are looking into, but for this, I just wanted to share with you how their background characteristics correlated with their intention towards adopting mechanized conservation agriculture. Now, we can see from this figure here that for the emergent farmers who currently are doing conservation agriculture had really high positive correlation to adoption of mechanized conservation agriculture. And this also positively correlated with their level of education, and at the same time, whether they are currently practicing CA in their farms, either partially or fully. So like you can see that the farmers who do only partial adoption had a negative correlation, meaning that they have not been able to ascertain the benefits. But again, also we saw that gender negatively correlated with the intention to mechanize. and most majorly because women perceive themselves not to be acquainted with machinery. And for those who have never adopted CA, also negatively correlated with the intention to adoption. So this gave us a general picture. So the general trend was that, yeah, there was a high attitude and intention for this emergent or medium-scale farmers towards mechanization or mechanized CA. And of course, there are many other bottlenecks that the research revealed that is still preventing this to go on. So with that, we then said, okay, that was just aspect of the study, but we wanted now to demonstrate to them and to show them exactly what mechanized conservation agriculture could be, and something relatable to their farm sizes. And as you may also know that maize is one of the staple crops, or is the staple crops in Zambia, a food crop that is very necessary for food security. And also soyabean is recently been one of the cash crops. So I included this figure here just to show us in the past 1 decade, how the trend or the outlook of these crops for the last 10 years, and also to see the rainfall variability, how this impacts farmers or production, especially for rain-fed agriculture. So we can see that we have been having, of course, swings in the production and also in rainfall. And what I wanted us to see here is that production actually, low production actually relates with the amount of rainfall that is received in a given season. So like when we have high rainfall, we can tell that, yeah, both the maize and the soybean production is slightly higher. And when it is, when we have dry seasons, we can see that both the crops production also levels also drops significantly. So this just shows that indeed, yeah, our farmers who are relying on the rainfall farming are a bit disadvantaged, and then this means that they need to start thinking of, you know, adopting or using climate smart ways of farming if they are to cushion themselves from this rainfall variability. So with that, I would love to show you then what experiment we did. And with this experiment, we were able to demonstrate to the emergent farmers the possibility of doing mechanized conservation agriculture on their own farm. So 15 hectares of land was set out for rain-fed agriculture production, and we planted maize and soyabean for 3 seasons, so 2019 to 2022 now. This year when we just harvested, 3 tillage treatments were randomly replicated 4 times, yielding a total of 12 plots for each crop, and our plots were averagely 7 hectares. So for the CA treatments, we had direct seeding with no initial soil disturbances, but planting on the residues. And for the second CA practice was the ripping, where we just made drip lines and then planted on the same drip lines upon receiving sufficient moisture. On the conservation treatment, we had disc harrowing, which involved complete disturbance, disturbance of soil and also initial burning of crop residues, as is practiced by most farmers. And all the agronomic applications were kept uniform across the treatment, because our interest was just to see the impact of tillage practice on the yield and other agronomic aspects. So all operations, including land preparation, planting, fertilizer application, herbicides application, were done by local implements and also on a 60 horsepower tractor. We were able to collect agronomic data, soil moisture data, soil nutrients, temperature, and others. And yes, so we were able to monitor everything until the end of the season, and then finally we're able to compare the yields across the treatments and also the overall profitability, so that we could be able to answer the question whether this is a profitable practice for the small and medium scale farmers. So for today, I will just limit our discussion or our discussion to the economic aspects of our work. There's a lot on the agronomic soil that I haven't included here. So let's just discuss briefly about the yield comparisons and also the profitability. I want to draw your attention to the 3 seasons. So as I said, we have been doing, we have done this in the last 3 seasons. And if you look at the rainfall, the rainfall recorded, or the rainfall amounts recorded in the last 3 seasons, we see on the first season, we had relatively dry season, while in the second season was actually quite wet. And the last season was somehow in the middle. But we saw a bit of a trend. So for example, in the dry seasons for maize, we find that reaping tillage slightly performing better, and also in the last season. While in the wet season, actually the conventional practice disking outperformed the CA practices or the CA tillage practices. If we compare that with the soyabean, in the dry first season, we realized that CA practices actually perform better compared to this harrowing, which is a conventional practice. And in this last season, there was no significant difference, and also in the wet season, there was no significant difference for soyabean. But I think it will be also important to note that if we compare our yield potential with the national average for small and medium scale farmers, this is data according to IAPRI and also the Ministry of Agriculture, we can see that for the first season, that is 2019-2020, the national average yield for maize was only 2.1 tons per hectare, while for us, the average yield was about 8 tons. And this also was quite different in the second season as well, which was only 2.1 for the national averages. So you can see that up to around, more than 4 tons difference for maize compared to the national averages. For soyabean, we also see our yield slightly better than the national averages, which is majorly based on the small and medium scale farmers' yields. So this shows that there's a bit of potential on mechanization, because we know that with mechanization, we increase productivity per unit area. And this huge difference could actually be bridged if medium scale farmers and small scale farmers can access mechanized option or mechanization. So after that, we also were keen to measure fuel use differences across the 3 treatments from the beginning, from land preparation all through up to maturity. And we just wanted to see that if a farmer wanted to monitor or compare the amount of fuel the tractor will use when doing these 3 treatments or 3 tillage practices, we could see here that yes, mechanized CA, especially the direct seeding practice, actually saved up to around 50% of the fuel used throughout the season for both maize and soya. Also, the reaping tillage also had significant fuel saving between 20 to 30%. This really is important because it still translates to the overall productivity and profitability that the farmers will have to look into at the end of the season, comparing what he has input and also in regards to what the yields and the costs will be. So this shows actually that yes, when we use mechanized conservation versions, then the farmer really saves a lot in terms of fuel input. And so how does this translate to profitability? Yes, we were also keen to calculate the profit margin. So just looking using the normal gross margin analysis, figuring in or factoring in all the input costs and all the other variable costs, and then comparing them with the revenues that we get at the end of the season. In the first season, actually, we could see that, yes, the two CA practices recorded slightly higher gross margins. And this also was repeated in the last season, that is the season 2020, 2021, 2022. The trend was not so in the maize second season, when we had higher maize yield in the disc plots. Otherwise, this was also because, as I've said, because we had higher maize yield in the disc plots. But when you come to the soyabean, we can see somehow that the trend is maintained. We see the reaping plots and the direct seeding recording slightly higher gross margins for all the three seasons. And also good to understand here is that the price or the profitability of the crops is also greatly dependent on the unit price of the crops in a given season. Yeah, so I think it's mostly important to realize that, yes, farmers can be economically resilient if they practice mechanized conservation agriculture. And we can see from our study here that even from the beginning, the farmers actually don't have to incur any loss or undergo any loss by adopting or practicing mechanized conservation agriculture. Yeah, so in conclusion, our study shows that mechanized conservation agriculture offers great opportunities for small and medium-scale farmers, specifically to increase their productivity per unit area. And based on the profitability and the economic viability that we have seen, it's true that, yeah, this can be acquired, that this can be seen, or this can be attained within a short term or a short span, as we have seen within the 3 years that we are able to have a commendable profitability and also economic viability. And the farmers actually can attain this even if they don't have the tractors, or even if they don't own the tractors, if they can access the tractors. And the time and the fuel savings that we've seen in mechanized tillage practices make us also reduce greatly the carbon emission, the carbon footprint emission. And this is very important in fighting climate change. And then lastly, I would say, based on these findings, there is therefore need for urgent increased mechanization, not only in Zambia, but also across Sub-Saharan Africa, if the desired agri-food system or food security is to be achieved. So with that, I just want to also say that we have tried to publish this work. So part of our experiment, or the results that we got for the past 2 seasons, was published in Soil and Tillage Research, and I invite you to read more about this, and also about our first thoughts on whether emergent farmers are the missing link to mechanized conservation agriculture. Also, we published in Development in Practice. And this work will not be successful with the support of all this organization. And I want to thank you so much for your attention.
Okay, thanks a lot, Godfrey. This was very insightful. I think now we have room for some questions and discussions. So if any one of you would have some questions or want to share reflections or discuss anything, this is the time now.
Yeah, maybe I start the ball rolling. Godfrey, thank you very much. More a comment than a question. You pointed out that under conservation agriculture, or under the system, the maize and soya was grown, especially the maize. We had 6 to 8.5 tons more at AKTC than the national average. And I want to comment on this. This is really important to intensify the yield on the existing land. in order not to deforestation, to get more land into production, with this emphasis on increasing the yields on the existing land. And at AKDC, we were able to showcase that it's possible. So everything we did can be replicated by the local farmers. So we used machinery which is available in Zambia. All other inputs are available in Zambia. So it's a good example, leading example for local farmers.
Thanks a lot, Helmut. Godfrey, you want to comment on that?
Yes, so maybe just to say something about that. The idea is that at the end of our research, that this could be easily replicated among the medium-scale farmers or the small-scale farmers, which are the target of a KTC as a training center on the ground. Yeah, so I mean, that's why even in the choice of machinery that was being used in this project was also just the, say, the locally available machinery and equipment that would be still relatable to what they own or what they can access in their areas. Yeah.
Maybe I have a question, if I can. My name is, trying to turn my camera on. My name is Alessia, and I work for IPC, and we mainly work with microfinance institution in Africa. And we are currently working on several projects trying to finance this transition towards a more sustainable way of farming. And I was related to what you just said, I was a bit interested about the costs of this mini tillage or zero tillage machineries. How much would such a machinery cost, like for direct seeding or for reaping? If this is something that you see affordable, because what we hear always from the farmers when we try to propose this type of financing is that it's quite expensive, and usually they also state it takes several years to get the same yields, which you confirmed it's not the case through this research. But I was a bit interested in the costs of these machineries.
Yes, maybe I just say something, then Helmut can also jump in. So I guess that the cost of the machinery are based on the local market rates. And then for our case, we also did not just look at the cost of the machinery, but we also looked at if the farmers were to hire the tractor services. So for example, reaping, disking, and planting, because they are service providers in their localities that offer the same services. So how much will this translate in terms of the cost at the end of the season? But as to whether the implements are affordable and what are the prices, I will request maybe Helmut to give us a light on that, because I'm not so much conversant with the current market rates. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if I should mention now a certain dollar amount, what the machinery costs in Zambia. Of course, it's different from country to country, but let me say so much. We use basic machines, so they are two-wheel tractors, not four-wheel driven tractors, just two-wheel tractors with a two-row planter. And plus the attachment, there was a trailer and a boom sprayer. And this is I can say the smallest available equipment. And compared now to doing conservation agriculture to conventional agriculture. If you want to turn the soil, you need a much more stronger tractor. So in conservation agriculture, the investment costs are the lowest possible compared to conventional agriculture. If you want you to use a plow or to use a disc harrow, you need much more horsepower. And again, that will increase the fuel consumption. So basically, that's the lowest cost alternative for cultivation, I can say. Is answering your question. And of
Maybe
course,
I can also add on that. I think it's an important point also that farmers don't necessarily need to own that machinery, but the existence of the service markets, no? So tractor owners providing services to surrounding smallholder farmers, yeah? And here we also see this price differences. So if you want to hire services for disc harrowing in Zambia, I think Godfrey's work shows this is around $49 per hectare. Whereas if you hire the same services for ripping or direct seeding, it's just $30. So it's significantly lower. So it's more accessible actually for smallholder farmers if we compare just the service markets.
Thank you.
Sorry, we can't hear you, Thomas.
Okay, yes. Sorry. Okay, so now we have Karim also from FAO. Please, Karim.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to this excellent presentation. Congratulations to the team. So what I would like to say, my name is Karim Houmi. So I'm working as an international consultant from the FAO. And currently we are working on Zambia also. We are developing we call it national strategy for agricultural mechanization. So my question is that it seemed very interesting that what we have presented for our strategy, what kind of recommendation to promote this CA? Certainly there is a problem of cost, I guess. We have already talked about higher service provision, one solution, but if there are other solutions also, I guess sensitizing farmers, maybe others. So my question is, what kind of action that the government should be do in the future to promote and to develop CA according to your experience? Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I think this is a broad question, so I'll just give a bit of my mind and then other team can also join. Yeah, so my first point, I think, will be that farmers need to access machinery or tractors. Yeah, so this point of accessibility boils down to the costs, availability in the local market, financial options, so that maybe the emergent farmers who are more market-oriented will still, let's say, get some affordable loan with good interest and then acquire the machinery and the tractors and still be able to service the loans in time. And then one most important thing also, as I will, that I think also need to be recommended, is about training, training on mechanization. I believe that's what AKTC is doing, but still more need to be done because the country is big and they cannot maybe do everything. So training on appropriate mechanization and also sustainable mechanization practices like the CA itself is important, because if farmers just buy and then they don't know exactly how to do the CA practices using their own tractors, then that also is a challenge. Yeah, so let me stop at that and maybe ask, Helmut to also say something. Thank you.
Yeah, to add on this, as I already mentioned, a big factor of promotion is the increased profit you can achieve with mechanized conservation agriculture. In our training center now in Zambia, we are mainstreaming mechanized conservation agriculture. So any farmer who comes for training to AKTC will learn something about mechanized conservation agriculture. And we also go out to that research site where Godfrey did his research. We show them how it looks like. We also do field days once or twice a year on mechanized conservation agriculture when the crop is in production, so farmers can see how the maize looks like, how the soya looks like. We display our machinery on fairs, on agricultural shows, so that the farmers can see the adaptations, the changes we have made in order to make all used machinery workable. And finally, we do presentations like this one, so that a broader audience, even in the region or in sub-Saharan Africa, hears about what we have done, what we are doing. And so we hope that a network will establish where we can share our experiences. Also from side of the BMEL, we now have an additional regional approach where we cooperate, for example, with the SACAO. So the member states of SACAO, the farmer unions, they will learn about our experience so that they can again tell their farmers. So, and this way we hope to spread the word. And also, of course, with FAO, we have been present on several presentations and we're talking about our experience. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot for these insights. Then we have also Stefan having a question or comment here.
Yes, thank you, Godfrey, for this fantastic presentation. My question is, when you highlighted the difference between the national average yield and the yields that you have been able to achieve on the test plots, and they're really striking. I mean, you're basically having 3 times as much yield as a national average, and you pointed to mechanization as a main cause for that difference. And I wanted to ask you about that. Is that how you see it? Would you say that mechanization is actually the main contributor to this huge yield difference, or are there other factors that you would think would also massively contribute? That would be very interesting for me.
Yes, thank you so much for that question. I see that I will say that mechanization is one of the major contributions. Because first and foremost, we know that with the mechanization, you are able to at least achieve the required maybe plant density per unit area compared to, for example, using hand hoes. And also, if you look at also the mechanics of planting, for example, when you use a planter, then you're able to at least achieve a uniform soil, uniform seed depth, seed placement depth, meaning that at the end of the season, then you will be able to at least have almost averagely uniform germination. But then I also think that apart from mechanization, then we also have variation in agronomic management, which now tells a lot about farmers' training and how they need to do their practices. So, of course, in our experiment, we were able to control our weeds. We were able to also make sure that we apply the required amount of fertilizer, recommended rates. So I think for a for a medium scale farmer or a small scale farmer, in as much as they might not do everything that we did, but I believe with improved mechanization, this will not be the case. At least they will be able to up their productivity per unit area, even if we say that they cannot afford to apply the same fertilizer and also control the weeds perfectly as we did. So this is my take. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, Godfrey. I mean, we did some other work in Zambia also on the effects of mechanization in the context of smallholder farming. There we also do find that yields do increase by around 25%. So not that order of magnitude, but still an increase of yields, mainly because labor bottlenecks that delay things like timely planting and so on are addressed. So there are some effects, not the same magnitude, but certainly it can make a difference. Yeah. Okay, then we have Martin asking a question, and we also do have some questions in the chat, but let's see what Martin has to ask first.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Godfrey, for that presentation. Well, just going a little bit beyond the previous question on the yields. When you look at those yields, these are yields that are actually very close or actually almost just similar to what you get from large-scale farming. And but what we're talking about now in terms of focus are small-scale farmers. So the land area for small-scale farmers would be something just up to 5 hectares. I'm thinking that possibly this study would have been okay if we had some multi-location experiments, possibly nationwide, based on the agro-ecological regions of Zambia. Because when you see the performance, when the rain season was okay, I think that was the second season, we saw maize performing better in conventional farming and less in CA. All right. So if we did some multi-locational experiments in the 3 seasons and on smaller plots managed by farmers, possibly we could get results that are very close to what we desire for small scale farmers. I know that adoption of CA in Zambia, we've tried to promote CA as much as possible in Zambia, but the adoption levels are low. You will find that most farmers are actually practicing only certain elements, maybe 2 elements out of the 3 elements of conservation. Now we are trying to move a step further and bring in the aspect of mechanization, which of course has been there as well. So I'm thinking really maybe we could do a little bit. I know this is a 3-year study related to the PhD work that you are doing, but maybe beyond this we can try to do some experiments at lower scale that will be more related to small scale farmers, and then we can draw conclusions in terms of whether or not really mechanized conservation agriculture is profitable for small scale farmers. So I didn't introduce myself. I'm Martin Liwali. I consult for AGRA in Zambia, and previously I ran an IFAD-funded program which was promoting productivity enhancements in northern Zambia. And as we know, the rainfall in northern Zambia is quite good, but we're trying to pilot conservation agriculture in that part of the country. And the results that we found out among small-scale farmers is that those small-scale farmers that were practicing conservation agriculture did well during the drought-prone seasons. So, and like you put it rightly, like your studies show, in the seasons where the rainfall was good, we saw this good performance from conventional farming. So maybe we can do a little bit more, looking at different factors, and maybe having these experiments managed by farmers themselves. I thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Martin, for those nice or interesting insights. So maybe just to quickly respond, first and foremost, as I said in the beginning, the motivation of our research was actually the rise of the medium-scale farmers, which, according to research, actually were more of market-oriented, producing for the market, and they also, some have some, application or use of machinery or implements on their farm. So our setup for the experiment, as you said, yeah, could be could be bigger than the small scale farmer plots. But for these emergent or medium scale farmers, I think this was still comparable to their farm sizes, because, as I said, averagely each plot was around 0.7 hectares, which I think also a small scale farmer or small scale farmer's farm will be even bigger than that in Zambia. So we decided to do this, and also because a lot of research has been done on the small scale basis, the small plots in different agroecological zones. So we wanted just to go as a notch higher, and also looking at the dynamics of mechanization. Right. So I will say yes, this our results can only be authenticated in the central province, or in Chisamba, specifically where we did our research. I know there could be difference in other agroecological zone if this will be replicated there. And we also tried as much as possible to use the recommended agronomic applications, so like by the Ministry of Agriculture, and we tried to make our applications as basic as possible. I know this could not be the case, and the difference will be there if the farmers were to do it in different locations, and perhaps there could be a difference. So your point is really valid, but that was what we were doing. We wanted to at least set up an experiment equivalent or mimicking exactly what medium scale farmers will do in their farms, and those who are keen to applying or using some level of mechanization. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks a lot. Martin is happy with that answer. Then we have two more questions in the chat. Maybe I bundle this for you, Godfrey, so you can answer that. That are some more technical questions somehow. We have Peron Colin Sova asking, are you saying that the profit margins for maize were lower for the second season because of lower maize prices? And he's also interested in the varieties that you use for maize and soybeans. And then Simon Hunt is asking whether you put any livestock on the maize residues to get benefits of manure. Maybe you can answer those questions, and then I think we need to wrap up.
Yeah. Yes, thank you so much, Peron, for this question. Yeah, so if you compare the maize price per unit kg in the first season, it was $0.2 per kg. And in the second season, that actually dropped to around 0.14. So then it means that despite the higher yield in the second season, the revenue, the total revenue that we accrued was actually low. Yeah, so the difference was around equivalent of around $150 per hectare. So that really contributed, and that's also another challenge with maize prices variability, because they are majorly determined by the government. And then about the varieties, yes, in our I would say pre-study, we wanted to do exactly what the farmers around us do, and also even the crops that they grow, the maize and the soya. We chose the varieties that most of the farmers grow. So in our interaction with them during our survey, we were able to learn what they are growing. So we use the same, I would say the most common variety of maize that is planted in that region, in Chisamba region, which is Seedco. So the first one we use Seedco 633, which, I mean, for the 2 seasons. And then also soya, we use Safari, SC Safari. And then the last question was about whether we put livestock in our farms. No, we didn't put livestock in our farms, but we were keen at burning the residues on the disc plots, because that is what most farmers do. Those who do conventional, they burn at the end of the season so that at least they have clear field. But for the rip plots and the no-till plots, we preserve the residues. So we didn't involve animal grazing. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot. Yeah, some of these aspects that you mentioned, we also thought about kind of continuously, including this question on livestock. Now this project continues, and there will be some other forms of experimentation, including a focus on cover crops and some other aspects. So we will be sharing some more insights over the years to come. Okay, let me wrap up. Thanks, Godfrey, for this presentation. I think that was very insightful. Also, thanks all of you for attending and for your questions. That was valuable very much to us. I think there is a big understanding that we need to adapt to this rapidly unfolding climate crisis. Farmers have to adapt, in particular also in Zambia, a lot of other African countries, but really across the world. The big question is whether things like mechanized conservation agriculture can be part of the answer. And I think Godfrey's presentation has delivered some answers to that question. I mean, many of the effects that we're going to see only really take some years to really unfold, including those on soil organic matter and so on. So we will be happy to continue working with Helmut and the team and Godfrey on these issues. But what we can already see is that yields are stable with conservation agriculture, or even slightly higher in dry years. And this resonates with the comment of from Martin in northern Zambia. No? So that's a good result already. And I think another major result is that there is no yield penalty associated with conservation agriculture immediately after adopting it. That is one of the big concerns, often one of the reasons for non-adopting. Godfrey's results that this shows that this does not need to be the case. And conversion, and in turn also, there doesn't need to be a profitability penalty. It can be very economic to adapt conservation agriculture from the beginning. So I think that is a major result here. I think what became also clear is that the work we're doing is not done. Some of the questions related to how to scale that out, no? The question of Cynthia and also of Karim, or how to make that more relatable in the context of smallholder farming, the question of Martin. So I think there is still work to be done, but I think the results of Godfrey show that conservation agriculture, mechanized conservation agriculture could play part of the many solutions that we need for really climate adapted farming. Okay, with that, I really appreciate all your comments and time, and a particular thanks to Godfrey for this great presentation. Thanks a lot, and have a good afternoon.
Thanks, everyone. See you again.
Yeah, also from my side, thank you.
Oh, sorry, Helmut, I didn't want to cut you short. Please, if you want to share some reflection.
No, it's fine. Just thank you, and have a good rest of the day.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.